Hi, this is Lincoln Holbrook, and I'm excited to have you with us today. Today, I just want to spend a few minutes going through a calculator to just talk about the power of compounding. Most people who I've worked with, and I've worked with probably 5,000 people directly and over 10,000 people indirectly as an investor, as an instructor at Invest Tools. I traveled all over the world teaching people how to invest. And I've also taught I started an education company some years back, and through my coaches, we've taught an additional several thousand people how to trade in the markets. And a common problem that people have is that they don't fully understand the wealth creation cycle. There are two parts in the wealth creation cycle. The first part is where most people focus, and that's on creating wealth. That's getting educated, getting a job, working really hard on their jobs, trying to make a business go, whatever it is, it's income generation. And most of us work diligently to make that process happen. And we're working so hard on becoming better lawyers or dentists or doctors or whatever it is that we've become, that we don't really have time or energy left over to invest our money. We know in the back of our heads we need to save for retirement. Wall Street's made it very clear to us that it's our job to save, that we need to focus on that. And so we do focus, most of us try to save something and we give it to an expert because we're so busy making money that we take our money that we're saving and give it to an expert who's supposedly in our minds working on our behalf to grow our money. The problem is they're not really doing their jobs. They're maximizing their income potential. And if you think about it, if you pay them a fee for growing your money, let's say you pay them 5% a year, well, 10% for easy math, and you save 100,000, give them 100,000, and they double it to 200,000, well, they'd make $20,000. But if they could find 50 people or 100 people just like you throughout the course of the year, they'd get $10,000 times 100 people. That's a far better investment of their time for them than it is to help us grow our money. So just from a standpoint of human nature, you can't expect them to focus on you and growing your accounts when they're too busy trying to focus on them and growing their retirement. And so they want you to feel, they want to have your money under management. It gives them a paycheck and they want you to be okay with that. And so they kind of hide how much they're getting for you every year. Most people don't know what their annual rate of return is from these experts. They try to hide that. And the other thing they try to do is make you feel like that's as best you can get. You know, meeting the market, you can't expect to beat the market. You can only expect to at best match the markets, and only the experts, the best of the experts, can do that. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not true. You can do on your own far better than they can. Remember, these guys manage billions and trillions of dollars. They cannot beat the markets. They are the market, but you're managing just less. You're way less than that. Way less than that. And so you can actually beat the markets, and it's possible to beat the markets. Warren Buffett at some point in 2005 revealed that he gets 50% a year in his smaller accounts. Warren Buffett gets 50% a year in smaller accounts. You have a smaller account compared to these big guys, and therefore you can get far better returns than you've ever been promised before. And I just wanted to share with you what those returns would look like. Let's assume you have just $5,000 to start with. That's it. But that you have 30 years that you can let it grow, okay? Assuming a 10% annual rate of return, that 5,000 over the course of 30 years would grow into about $100,000. Now, the average mutual fund after fees returns just 4%. It would grow into just $20,000. And the average market is the same. It's right. The 10% is the average market over the last 20 years or so is what the market's average for the last each year for the last 20 years. Now, what if we could increase this annual rate of return to double it, let's say? We're not even going to talk about 50% like Warren Buffett. All of a sudden, $5,000 turns into $1.9 million, which is almost $2 million more than what the markets would have averaged, and significantly more than what a mutual fund would have averaged, right? All because you were focused on the annual rate of return number. That's called the law of compounding, or the power of compounding. It can be a powerful force in your wealth creation, but it can only be a powerful force in your creation of wealth if you control your growth, if you make your money work for you. And you do that by investing. And lots of people invest in different things, real estate, the stock market, businesses, whatever. But the stock market is the most liquid of all those three. And it's the way you can get there the fastest, to be honest. There are all kinds of things you can do in the stock market once you understand it that allow you to play the markets to generate even a much higher rate of return. Now, what happens if you don't have 30 years? What if you only have 15 years, but you have more to start with? The average American closest to retirement has about $100,000 in their account. So let's just put $100,000. Let's assume you have that much trade in a retirement account somewhere, but you only have 15 years that it can grow. Now, obviously, with $100,000 starting and only 15 years with 20%, you can still get almost $2 million, significantly higher than what the markets would have given you on average or what the mutual funds would have given you, okay? If you don't have enough for your retirement, it's not your fault. It's the fault of Wall Street that didn't do for you what they could have done had they just been actively working on your behalf. Now, what happens if you don't have 15 years? What if you only have 5 years? Now, $100,000 in 5 years making 20% only becomes $269,000. For most people, that's not enough to retire on. So how do you increase this number? Well, you increase that not by saving more, assuming that you can't save anymore, but by focusing on your annual rate of return. What if you could get 30% a year instead of just 20? Well, now you've almost doubled it. What if you could get 40% a year? Now you've more than tripled the initial amount. That's closer to a good retirement amount. What if you could do what Warren Buffett said and do 50% a year for those 5 years? That's it, 5 years, $100,000 can still turn into $1 million if your money's growing at a high enough rate of return. Most people focus all of their attention and their energy and their best efforts on increasing their income, which allows them to save more, granted. But they're missing out on the largest piece of wealth creation, which is growing their money or putting their money to work. If you want to retire wealthy, then you have to do something different. It's still possible to retire wealthy. All you have to do is focus on increasing your annual rate of return number, and you have to expand your mind as to what is possible. It is possible to do far better than 10% a year. 20% a year. Warren Buffett guarantees 50% a year. I know traders who are getting more like 75 to 100% every year on smaller accounts. If you have a smaller account and you're worried about retirement, the single best thing you can do right now is to talk to one of my guys and ask them how they can help you learn how to trade like this. Give us a call. Thanks.